not neutral. If I used a combo meter main panel outside, would that designate my main panel inside as a sub-panel? What if I used a disconnect switch instead? The former main becomes a sub-panel in all cases. The main panel is the first disconnect past the meter. If the outside disconnect ranch panel only has loads allowed in NEC 230. 82, then the 230. 85 you quoted allows that outside disconnect to be marked per 230. 85.3 not a service disconnect, and then the interior panel becomes the service disconnect. And yeah, you can run 3-wire that way. There are also solar-ready meter mains which provide a separate utility side breaker for solar. This removes all amp limits on the size of the solar system. Does the code not require me to install this disconnect if I can reuse my meter base i.e., if it's already 200A rated? If I don't do it now, would I then have to if I later replaced my buried cable? The triggering event will definitely be if you had to replace your meter pan for other reasons. Whether it's required as main panel upgrade is up to the AHJ in NEC 2023. Replacing the main panel is a triggering event which requires addition of the outside disconnect. I would expect the requirement to land if you're doing something more than a straight repair of a broken pan, and if you are disturbing the meter pan in a way the power company must de-energize the pan for service. A panel replacement wouldn't qualify, since the power company can simply pull the meter for that. It's really up to the AHJ. But why on earth would you resist a meter main if you are doing DIY replacement of the main panel? What do you think they're going to do? Let you work live, or that work inspection hookup can happen in a day with no snags or gotchas? You are better off installing a meter main-ish sort of thing like a ranch panel, as a single one-shot operation, probably for hire. Get re-energized, and then you're now in a great position to DIY panel replacement. Not least, think about how this changes the panel replacement task. Before, it was a panel upgrade, which definitely needs the full rigmarole of permits and inspections. But now, it's not an upgrade, it's a repair. Remember, it stopped being a rule of 6 panel the moment it got fed from a 125A breaker elsewhere. Now, it's just a random main lug panel. And you are replacing it in kind with another main lug panel. Well, that's a repair. There's nothing to permit there. Sure, it's a 225A bust main lug panel, but 125A bus panels were not available and nobody really cares. Sure, it's 40 spaces instead of 14, but you're not adding any circuits, so it doesn't matter. Or if there was no sale on that idea, I would propose adding a critical load subpanel in a position where existing wires will reach, and say I want to move some critical loads to that panel. Now you're only messing with a few circuits in the house, so you're not taking your entire house down for the duration. You have a split bus panel with fatal defects. Split bus panels operate under the rule of 6, using an internal subpanel. Rule of 6 means that there is a main breaker area with up to 6 main breakers. This area cannot be de-energized. Further, nothing prevents this area from overloading, which means these panels are vulnerable to being overloaded when people do upgrades without recalculating their NEC Article 220 load calculation. This doesn't call for replacement, but does need to have a main breaker in front of it to eliminate the overload vulnerability. Meter mains do a fine job of that. However, yours has 2 additional problems. One, it's an ancient GE panel, for which availability of full-size breakers is hit and miss, though you can get thins all day. 2, you mentioned a faulty lug that cannot be torqued. That is an instant deal killer. Right now, I would remove those untorqueable wires and feed the lighting area with a backfeed breaker, condensing circuits as needed to make it fit. The risk of arcing and fire is severe. Torque matters. How I would stage the work? I would actually break it into 3 mini projects. The whole point of this is to box in project 2. So it is the smallest, simplest project it can be to maximize the chance of getting it done in one morning, so the inspector will be confident you will be powered back up same day and won't have to ask uncomfortable questions about where you'll be sleeping the night. Inspectors do not like people being in power out houses. Whole panel swaps are hard, especially for DIYers with many complications. By giving you the power to DIY shut off the panel without power company intervention, it sets you up for success on Project 3, the actual panel swap. Project 1. Add a ground bar to the old panel, separate neutrals and grounds in that panel, and run a separate ground wire parallel to the service entrance wire from panel to meter. Project 2. Replace the old meter pan with a meter main full stop. This will involve full permits and power company intervention. Removing the old service drop, the house will be down for the duration, and then getting inspection approval, and then the power company turns the power back on. However, because it's a small project, there's much less to go wrong, so you are less likely to have a protracted power out situation. I'm deliberately excluding the main panel swap from this, because that would make things much more complicated, especially given all the surprises you can find in a main panel swap. But a meter main isn't mandatory. Why should I do something that isn't mandatory? Because it allows you to break the project into smaller, simpler, more achievable bite-sized projects, thus making it all easier and increasing the chance of DIY success. Now, you actually could go above and beyond on this in a couple of ways. 1. Instead of straight meter main, you could use a ranch panel, which adds 8 breaker spaces to the meter main. This could do things like allow you to feed the old main panel 100A while building a new main panel right next to it that is fed 200A. Then you can move circuits from the old to new panel one at a time at your leisure, if that would help your workflow. Or the 8 breaker spaces accommodate generator interlock, solar, surge suppressor, you name it. 2. You could install a 400A meter main, which includes a 200A breaker and a blank space for a second 200A breaker to feed a second 200A panel. That is the normal way 400A services are done. Even if you're not buying 400A service today, the meter main is ready to go the day you upgrade. And they make 400A ranch panels too. Project 3. If needed, replace the former main panel, now main subpanel, with better quality of main subpanel. Because of Project 2, the power company is not involved, and this gives you maximum flexibility choice on how to approach it. For instance, you could leave the old panel in place and add a new panel next to it. Move circuits over one at a time at your leisure, then scrap out the old panel at your leisure. Answer from user Harper. Reinstate Monica at Stack Exchange.